Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Lisa Bock-Andersen. I'm the Director of Congresses and Communications at Ertico ITS Europe, and I have the pleasure of hosting the webinar today. For those of you who haven't participated before, this is part of a series of webinars that basically take us on the journey towards the European Congress in Toulouse, end of May. And in every webinar, we try and cover some of the Congress topics. We have 5 topics, and today we are actually covering 2 topics, as you can see here: solutions for citizens and cities as logistics hub. A few house rules. We will have a Q&A at the end of the sessions, and you can ask your questions through the Co2 system. You are all in listen-only mode, but we will gather the questions and we can then discuss them at the end. And the webinar, as usual, will be recorded and it will be shared through our communication channels. Let me first take you through the agenda. We have 2 parts. First, a more general part where I will give a quick update on the ITS European Congress in Toulouse. Then our CEO, Joost van Tomme, will give his welcome and a couple of thoughts to the topic at hand. And then we have our keynote, so to say, Chakasta Pritlov from Google. She's public sector account executive at Google. And Google is one of the presenting partners at Toulouse Congress. So you will, of course, also be able to meet Google in Toulouse. And then we have part 2, which is a little bit more in depth in the topic. And that is a small panel that will be led and moderated by my colleague, Vladimir, who is Director of Innovation and Deployment here at Ertico. And when we come to that, Vlad will introduce the 3 participants in the panel. And then, as I say, at the very end, we will have a Q&A. So with that, let me give a brief overview of the Congress. You'll be happy to note that I won't go through the next slides in detail. This is a program at a glance, which you can now find on the website. And it is a program that covers what we call the technical program, with around 100 technical sessions going in depth on the technical side, as the word suggests, and then also the high level program. And as you can see here on the Monday, we have the opening in the early morning, but before that we already have the technical sessions that are starting. We also have the ITS Policy Summit, which unites C-level representatives from industry with mayors and ministers from around Europe. That is also taking place on the Monday. And if we go to the next slide, you will see the Tuesday, apart from this wealth of technical sessions, we'll also be hosting 2 plenaries. And then on the Wednesday, which is the final day, we will have the 4th plenary. And we also have a number of technical sessions, of course, the closing sessions, and also sponsored sessions from various sponsors. And there is, I'm told, still 1 or 2 places left if any of you should be interested. We quickly move on. Here is a snapshot on of some of the high-level speakers. The speakers here are only from the high-level program. Of course, there are many speakers also from the technical program. You can see it is a mix of industry leaders, of elected officials, from the Commission, from the European Parliament, from the national side. I invite you to go on the website and you will see the updates as they trickle in. Also, of course, the program is not only about sessions. You know that we also have a lineup of demonstrations. This is just a little appetizer. Again, it's all up there on the website. These demonstrations, they really showcase the technology in depth, and most of them take place really outside or very close to the Congress Center. Now, we have a number of events partners. We have Google Cloud, as I was mentioning before, and Qualcomm as presenting partners. And we also have a number of thematic partners and general partners, as you can see. And then this is just to give you a flavor of all the exhibitors that are going to be there. Again, really a nice mix from across the European region and beyond, by the way. There are also exhibitors from outside of Europe. So it's really looking very promising indeed on all fronts. As always, you can stay up to date. There's a hashtag, as you can see. We also have our website and our social media channels. You can also subscribe to the newsletter. So no shortage of ways to keep up to date. Now on the actual topic, as I said before, it covers two topics, services for citizens, which has to do with mass, with real-time information, with safer mobility, etc. We'll get into that. And also the cities as a logistics hub, which is also about co-modality or intermodality, I think we call it, distribution hubs, data being key for the environment with what comes along, data sharing, interoperability challenges, etc., etc. So a super interesting topic. And just to give you a little appetizer, in Toulouse, you will see that both these topics are being treated in the high-level program. One of the plenary sessions is about sharing city space, the smart solution for all, but also in the technical program, so the 100 technical sessions I was talking about before, you can see here that we have a number of special interest sessions, technical papers, and also research papers diving into depth. So with that, I will now hand over to my CEO, Joost van Tomme, to give his welcome and a couple of thoughts to the topic. Joost, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good night for some of you. I'm thrilled to announce this really great conference and exhibition in Toulouse. I'm impressed by the wealth of subjects, very timely subjects, also by the quality of the speakers, the sponsors, the exhibitors, and the numerous participation and registrations that we get in today. So we will be very crowded there, and I look forward to meet all of you personally. To get a bit into the setting of the scene today, this is the fourth webinar, very successful webinars we have until now. This is ITS. When I ask students of university, what is ITS? Well, people start thinking, well, what is it? Huh? And then you get into all these kind of dots that we are connecting. It's about intelligent transportation and systems and services and products, and we connect the dots with all of them. Ertico is a unique public-private partnership. We were established by the European Commission 30 years ago, so 3 decades, to power innovation and sustainability, today's sustainability and intelligence in mobility. So it's about moving people in cities, for example, and it's about moving goods, logistics, but also moving data and immaterial things. And we connect the dots in Ertico with all these partners that you see here, these nice pictures, going for automated driving to drones, to urban mobility, but also traffic management, intelligent infrastructure, digital twins of physical infrastructure, and so on and so on and so on. Numerous projects we drive, and I'm sure that Vlad, my colleague, will drive you into this with the colleagues. Just to focus on the 4 areas that we have in Ertico with our roadmaps and I would say advocacy, these are the 4 tickets that we really work upon. together with European institutions. And today we're focusing on the third one. It's on urban mobility and mass, together with logistics. Next slide. Which brings me to the urban perspective, the city perspective. And in the Congress, so that's why you have to come, you will see, touch, and feel all of this. It's not buzzwords, it's reality. We will make it happen on RTTI, real-time traffic information, on SRTI, safety-related traffic information, on ITS Directive, the review of the ITS Directive. There is a special session with the European Commission that we host to discuss the review of the directive. There will be special sessions on logistics, special sessions on 5G, even 6G, etc., etc. So I cannot stop talking because it's so wealthy, but I invite you all to come over, not virtually, but really physically in Toulouse, end of next month, to make it tangible, all these subjects. With that, I would like to hand over to Lisa back, and I wish you all a very nice webinar. Thank you for being with us. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Joost, for this great introduction. And now over to Jacasta. Please, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Lisa. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name's Jacasta, and I'm delighted to be here talking about how Google technology is shaping the cities of today as well as tomorrow. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Google is an innovator in transport. We have invested tens of billions of dollars in mapping the ever-changing world. And in addition to that unparalleled investment in Google Maps, we're investing heavily across Google and Alphabet in other businesses, such as Android Auto, Waymo, and Waze, that drive cross synergies with Google Maps and vice versa. Next slide, please. And we're not stopping there. We're continuing to innovate, both within Alphabet and Google, looking for ways to solve those big societal challenges. Next slide, please. One of those challenges is an urban dilemma. How can we reduce the traffic in cities whilst helping businesses and residents receive their deliveries in a timely manner? Now, I live near one of the most populous cities in the south of England, and it also happens to be one of the UK's busiest and most successful deep water ports. It handles over 900,000 vehicles a year, around 1.9 million TEUs a year. And so you can imagine the traffic as those vehicles, the containers, and their contents are moved across the UK, and that's just from the port itself. Within the city, you've got over 260,000 people, all living in just under 50 square kilometres. You've got 21% of that space is green space. You've got 9,000 businesses, and that's generating 7.8 billion to the UK economy. But congestion costs my city £100 million a year, and it impacts on other transport services, such as the bus service. Next slide, please. Now, my city is lucky in that it's already well connected to the rail network. The port is well connected. And that means that goods imported can easily be distributed across the country. Now, freight on the railway is nothing new. But as the world looks to reduce its carbon emissions, the electric railway offers a lower carbon alternative to road transport. Stations are often at the heart of a community and offer an ideal point for pickup or onward distribution by electric cars, electric bikes, scooters. Now, in the UK, freight has always been moved separately in order to ensure there's space for the higher revenue generating travelling public. But with passenger numbers reducing and with the technology systems now being able to analyse and predict passenger demand, it is possible to build platforms that can integrate and orchestrate the movement of parcels with passengers, helping logistics companies to plan, ship, track and pay for their deliveries and shipments. Next slide, please. One part of my city's strategy is consolidating freight and deliveries. Now, many cities are looking at this and are turning towards urban consolidation centres. It's a relatively simple concept that sees the large, long-distance trucks delivering to a distribution hub on the outskirts of the town, where the contents are then unpacked and then delivered in smaller vehicles like electric cars or bikes. Now, let me take you through some of the innovative technologies that Google and its partners have developed to help make those last mile deliveries a success. Cyborg Labs, which is part of Google, focuses on solving cities' greatest challenges through forward thinking, urban design, and cutting-edge technology. Next slide, please. Through Delve, their urban design platform, they empower development and planning teams to design better, healthier, happier, and more sustainable cities. For urban consolidation centres to be successful, they need to be located near major access roads, whilst remaining in close proximity to the town, but they also require a significant amount of land. Allowing developers to prioritise sustainable transportation and parking amongst other building priorities, that means that planning the right location for your urban consolidation centre has been made simpler. On to the next slide, please. Having many small delivery vehicles on the road can be as disruptive as having fewer larger ones, especially when the drivers are having to pull over at the curb because there are no parking spaces available. With Pebble, you can create a digital map of the parking spaces in your city. You can provide real-time availability of the space with the quick and easy installation of a sensor and a solar-powered gateway. Manage commercial loading zones, as well as resident and visitor drivers, to reserve spaces, and if required, they can pay to park. This eliminates the unnecessary search and park, which increases carbon emissions, and provide the simpler and more sustainable find and drive. All of that parking data is then available for artificial intelligence and machine learning to be able to track patterns and more easily set parking policy. On to the next slide, please. Within our Google Maps platform, we have a suite of solutions that allow you to transform trips and track assets. Next slide, please. Our Cloud Fleet Routing API is a managed routing service that takes your list of orders, your vehicles, your constraints, and your objectives, and then returns to you the most efficient plan for your entire fleet in near real time. The service creates multi-point itineraries with up-to-date data on distances between points and estimated travel times. You can get suggested routes with unlimited waypoints that factor in predictive and real-time traffic conditions. You can get optimized routes and the ability to locate and visualize your trucks in real time, meaning logistics companies can keep their drivers out of slow traffic. They can maximize their fleet utilization. They can schedule inactive trucks for maintenance and decrease late deliveries. Next slide, thank you. The Last Mile Fleet solution is our newly announced toolkit that is designed to make delivery fleet operations simpler whilst delivering exceptional experience at scale for consumers, for drivers, and for fleet managers. The Last Mile Fleet solution allows you to capture the correct address. And did you know that 5% of all deliveries globally are sent to the wrong address? Using the Cloud Fleet Routing API that I've just spoken about, you can optimize the route. And you're also able to empower the driver by providing them with greater tools to help them do their jobs, keeping the customers and the fleet operating teams informed, improving your fleet performance for better predictability. Next slide, please. Now, imagine if you could see everything. Next slide, please. Whether you're involved in transport operations, logistics, maintenance, or you're a consumer trying to navigate your way around, having data at your fingertips is vital to keeping cities, companies, and individuals moving. Google Cloud's Transport Analytics platform provides a simplified way to access transportation and logistics data across a unified platform that is secure, fast, infinitely scalable, and cost-effective. A built-in IoT platform means you can track assets in real time. You can perform complex analytics and machine learning to bring new levels of intelligence and automation, helping you to remove friction, providing a seamless user experience so that, for example, you know where your vehicle of choice is and you know how the environment is interacting with it. You can monitor how that environment is changing, and therefore you can take action where appropriate. Whether it be air, rail, ocean, or road, our technology is helping to optimize logistics, public transport, and delivery services. From start to finish, A to B, Google's here to help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Takasta. That was super interesting. Lots of great innovations there for us to dive into. We will now go into part 2 of today's webinar, and my colleague Vlad will moderate. And as I said before, Vlad is Director of Innovation and Deployment at Ertico. Vlad, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and good afternoon and warm welcome in my behalf for this webinar. Yes, I had a very big pleasure to accept to be the moderator of the webinar that has 2 segments, as you heard previously. One is the services for cities and citizens, and the other one is cities as logistic hubs. So twice in the name of this webinar are cities. And why is that important for me personally? As Lisa said, I have recently started my new role at Ertico as Director of Innovation and Deployment. But before joining Ertico, the greatest part of my career, I spent working for one of the greatest cities in the world, that's London. And I worked 11 years for Transport for London. And all of the topics we are talking about today and partners involved and discussions we are having are somehow related to some of the work we are now promoting at Ertico, and of course leading up to the ITS European Congress in Toulouse. So about 2 years ago, Ertico started the consideration and question about cities and what cities need, what cities want, what cities try to do through a very large initiative, which you can see on the screen now. We call this initiative Ertico City Moonshot. Again, it's great to see moonshot as a word of inspiration for both Ertico and just previously from Takasta and Google as well. So we wanted, if I can have next slide, please. We wanted to engage with the cities. So that was the objective, to understand the cities and understand their requirements. And this idea came within Ertico office and Ertico partnership, some 120 partners, strong partnership, and also with our conversations with the European Commission. We wanted to bring the industry, the research sector, and the cities together. And we established the global survey. So the next slide, we said, we're going to go for the moonshot. We're going to interview 300 cities globally, and we're going to find out what they think about particular topics. You will see the topics soon, but focus was 200 cities in Europe. We are a European-based organization, although we actually are involved and have partners beyond Europe geographically. And we had 100 cities, as you can see, roughly split in 4 other geographical areas. Just about time when we started the survey, unfortunately, the pandemic of COVID-19 hit the whole world. So we moved our survey to an online format, and this is a screenshot from one of the surveys of one of the cities, and how it looked like, with 2 people from Ertico office interviewing a representative, or sometimes up to 13 representatives from various cities, asking them these questions. And the next slide, you see that the questionnaire was divided in 4 or 5 segments. Let's say that there were two general segments, the introduction and citizens engagement, but then we had the topics of main topics of sustainability, and I would like to be more specific there. The questions were about air quality, climate change, data, which we're going to talk about today. Are you collecting air quality data? Do you do anything with that data? And something like that. Then moving into data sharing, willingness of cities to share the data they have and how they use this data to make their operations more successful. And as it was mentioned earlier in the webinar, you heard that mobility and mobility as a service was one of the topics that raised a great interest for us. So overall, 58 questions. There were different types of questions, multiple choice or open-ended questions, and not just questions per se. As I said, engagement, conversation, learning about each other, learning about different cities, finding about of the strategies, policy documents the cities have, who is responsible for what in which city. Sometimes it's not actually a city, it can be a region that covers multiple metropolitan or urban areas. It was a very, very diverse conversation. And the next slide will lead you to where we are at the moment, and this is very impressive, that within some 18 months, this is the map. You will see also the map in the report I will mention later of the cities we interviewed. And if I tell you that in the phase 1 of the survey, we reached half of our moonshot. So in 18 months, about 156 cities were interviewed. You see the most dots concentrated in Europe, 104 cities actually interviewed, cities and regions in Europe, but the other 50 plus are outside Europe and all the way from west coast of the USA to Japan and New Zealand. So next slide is a sort of a summary of what we call phase 1. Phase 1 concluded with these topics and questions being asked to 156 cities. We then collated and aggregated the information we obtained from the cities. We were very careful and we said to the cities, we will not disclose your particular answer. We're going to promote them and report them on an aggregated level. We just wanted to find out what are the key topics and what are the key views and eventually percentages leaning to one or the other option that the cities were asked. And we published that in a report, and we will share this slide back after the webinar. You can also go on the Ertico website, ertico.com, and then City Moonshot, and on that page you will see the link to the report. And you will find out a lot more of the views and opinions of the cities globally. And as you saw on one of my previous slides, we said 300 cities. We are not stopping. We are now opening phase 2 of the survey. The phase 2 will consist similar number of questions, but this time we decided to amplify certain topics. So for instance, mobility as a service will get a couple of extra questions, but we're going to open some new topics. For example, electromobility and urban air mobility. So let's find out what cities have to say on this. We also will be revisiting some of the cities we talked with, and then hopefully that will amplify the engagement with the cities and feeding back the work we at Ertico and Ertico Partnership does, because all of these cities are also of interest to the European Commission, which is now selecting the 100 climate neutral cities, which Commission will help them to achieve the very, very ambitious targets of climate neutrality or zero decarbonization and zero emissions for transport. So these are some of the topics we will discover, and follow us closely to find out more about our plans. So that's the setting up the stage and a bit of Moonshot initiative. And now a little bit about the panel I'm going to be moderating today. So when I was approached to prepare this, I thought we should have at least 3 different angles talking about these 2 topics today. So the first angle will be brought by Paola Chiarini. She's a policy officer at the DG Move Business Unit 3, Innovation and Research. It is always important to hear the policymakers, to hear in this instance the Commission, and to ask them to guide us. And in particular now it is very timely. At the end of last year, Commission published the Urban Mobility Framework, and Paola will talk in a short while about zero emission city and freight logistics and last mile delivery. So you will see the cross section of these few topics. After Paola, I invited a colleague from Cycling Industries Europe. So as they say, the voice of cycling in Europe. He's the project manager there, Sam Pierce, and Sam will tell us more about how we can, through an active mode such as cycling, deliver the ambitious targets of decarbonization by, for example, using bicycles and cargo bicycles for the last mile deliveries. So we will let Sam tell us more about that. And finally, of course, if we talk about cities, if cities are the focus, then there is nobody better today to speak about that than City of Tampere from Finland, an Ertico partner, who I will not steal the thunder from Tina. So our colleague Tina Leinonen will be speaking about, she's coming from the Climate and Environmental Policy Unit, and she's a mobility coordinator, and she will talk about Tampere and the work Tampere does in this space, and with a big announcement of a big award won by them. But let's now first invite Paola to share her thoughts and the Commission's thoughts on these topics. Paola, floor is yours.
Thank you, Vlad. And first of all, I would like to apologize because due to technical problems, I cannot be on camera. So I will do this presentation, let's say, in incognito. But I hope at least that you can hear me properly.
Yes,
so,
Paola, just to tell you, it works perfectly. And for you and for all of our audience, if you have any questions for either me or any of my panelists, please ask them in the question box on the right-hand side of your screen. Thank you. And Paola, over to you.
Thank you, Vladimir. Okay, as Vladimir already announced, what I wanted to do today is really to give you a very quick overview of the zero-emission city freight logistics and last-mile delivery part within the Commission Urban Mobility Framework, which indeed it was published in December 2021 as part of a larger package, the Efficient and Green Mobility Package. This framework, the overall framework, is let's say, sets out some European guidance on how cities can cut emissions and improve mobility. And the main focus, I will not go through everything, but the main focus is really on public transport, promoting active way of mobility like walking and cycling, but also prioritize zero-emission solutions for urban fleets, prioritize last mile of urban deliveries, the construction and modernization of multimodal hubs, and of course look into new digital solutions and services. Next, please. Focusing a bit more into the logistics part, city logistics part, we have started from the consideration, of course, the city logistics is essential to the functioning of urban economies, but have, however, some externalities like congestion, pollution, emissions. And increased, especially during the pandemic, is the number of last mile deliveries, which is a trend that is very likely to persist. So we have looked at various options, so taking into consideration what also industry can do and what are certain innovative solutions which have already been presented. And first of all, we have seen that to ensure to optimize urban logistics and last mile delivery, keeping into account economic, social, and environmental terms, is necessary to ensure the engagement of both public and private stakeholders. So we will really try to support collaboration for really knowledge sharing on sustainable urban logistics management and planning. Secondly, we have seen always from the strategic point of view that city logistics needs to be fully integrated in the long distance freight transport. And so it's really necessary to reinforce the role of urban nodes, so cities as urban nodes. And we have made these proposals in the revision of the TEN-T regulation. This is more from the strategic planning point of view. However, we have seen that it is necessary to focus also on very specific solutions. One also is significantly increase the rollout of zero-emission vans that are used for logistics in cities, accelerate the development and deploying of sustainable solutions. So we will hear about cargo bikes, but also distribution models, dynamic routing, use different mode of transport, so better multimodal and connected urban rail, inland waterways, and also optimize the use of vehicles and infrastructure really to reduce the need for unnecessary funds. And then, as we have heard also already, it's necessary really data fundamental for this activity. And so it's necessary to assess what is the real need at the European level for more urban freight data collection and sharing. For this, to achieve this framework, this general idea, the Commission has proposed specific actions. First of all, as we said, to ensure that existing and new sustainable urban logistics plans are fully integrated within the sustainable urban mobility framework. plans framework. So in general, logistics have to be fully integrated in the overall mobility. Then we are going to support dialogue and collaboration between all parties, working, exchange among city planners. This was a real request when we start working on the urban mobility framework. This was a real request from cities and also logistics. On more specific terms, we will also make a proposal by the end of 2022 to revise the CO2 emission performance standards for heavy-duty vehicles, to really try and push and move towards zero-emission vehicles in this sector. And also we will support voluntary data sharing between all types of stakeholders. And the idea here is really to make urban freight transport more efficient, sustainable, and competitive. Considering the content of this webinar, I would like to say that from our point of view, data of course are fundamental, but digitalization has to be considered a tool, not an objective in itself. And as I said, the point is to make urban logistics more efficient, more sustainable, reducing the energy consumption of these logistics operational activities, and therefore also reduce the number of emissions. Beyond the activities very specific for logistics, there are also other actions we are envisaging within the urban mobility framework, with the digitalization, regarding digitalization for safer and more efficient urban mobility in general. So we are looking into to build a common European mobility data space, so really to facilitate the access to and the sharing of mobility data, also to the urban level. The setup of a U2 box for local digital twins, and the support of the Digital Europe program, and we have already some research activity on this project, the project lead, which has digital twins in several cities. There will be then a dedicated study to map digital and technical solutions for a proper efficient use of urban vehicle access regulations. It was mentioned already that there will be there is a proposed revision of the ATS directive, and also a new legislative initiatives related to digital services. This is just a quick overview of our activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paola. We heard you, but we had a bit of audio issues. But I think it was clear what you said, and especially the slides and information there. If I may, I have one or two quick questions for you, and then we will continue with Sam Pierce and then his presentation. So voluntary data sharing, you mentioned. How Commission can support the creation of data sharing framework for urban logistics? What are your kind of action plans? What are the next steps?
Can you hear me better now?
Oh yeah, it's much better. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I have technical problems with this program. Sorry for this. Well, we have heard. I found it very interesting that both the results of the city moonshot and Chakasta also mentioned, the need of data, and we are absolutely agree that data are fundamental to have really an evidence-based planning for urban mobility, logistics and urban mobility in general, and at the same time also for monitoring, for reporting, for evaluation of all the policies that are implemented, proposed and implemented in a city. We see also at the same time that, and I think you recognize this also in the city moonshot, cities have really trouble to collect data, especially for logistics. There are a lot of data or enough data for passengers, but for logistics, this seems to be a much bigger problem for maybe lack of expertise, expensive data for cities. Cities do not understand exactly how to treat these data. And on the same time, the logistics operators have let's say, are very hesitant, reticent to share their data, that they see the value of the data they have, and they see it as a competitive advantage. So in our discussion with both cities and logistics operators, we have clearly seen that we need to create a framework for data collection and exchange for logistics, city logistics. And this framework will have to provide a win-win situation. So for instance, this framework will have to be built together based on previous experience, clearly indicating which kind of data, for what purpose, accessible by whom. So really, this is our plan. We are considering how to go forward on this, and we will give, I mean, this will be one of the big topics for a new expert group, a urban mobility expert group that we are creating, and it will look into several issues for the implementation of the urban mobility framework. Meanwhile, we have already guidance and support to cities on this. We have a number of projects, research projects that have been funded under Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe that looks already into data collection, data sharing. And I also want to make a reference to the ongoing activities of the Digital Transport and Logistics Forum that looks already at interoperability of data and other issues.
Excellent. Thank you, Paola. Yes, RTCO is present at the DTLF forum as well as the Multimodal Passenger Mobility Forum. So it's interesting to hear this idea of potentially a group between those two, which will be looking on data in urban logistics. So that's you have our support and anything if needed from RTCO.
Thank you.
Thank you. One small question, if you have the information, the EU toolbox for local digital twins, Digital Europe program. Do you have any idea when this would be released? Because this sounds really interesting.
No, I know that this is in the plan for 2022, but I don't have a precise planning for this activity. Sorry.
Okay, excellent. That's already enough. Thank you very much. And I already introduced. Thank you. And I introduced Sam. So let's hear what Sam has to say. And I'm sure a couple of these questions and answers interest Sam as well. Hello, Sam.
Hi, Vlad. Thanks for inviting me to speak today. I'd just like to start my presentation today with a quick sort of thought-provoking experiment, get people's imaginations working. Look, I think we've all been there before. We've been on our favorite, website. We've purchased something. We've chosen the delivery option that corresponds to our needs. And we've received an email from the delivery company a couple of days later saying that the product is going to be delivered between 9 and 6 the following business day. And obviously you sort of have to stay at home to be there for when that is delivered. And I think that sort of situation speaks volumes about the current situation that we have with vans being the main source of logistics vehicle for delivering products and goods. These large windows are sort of given so that they can take into account congestion for vans in cities, parking issues if the van has to sort of circle around the block 3 or 4 times and then park at the end of the street, and the driver then has to sort of get out and walk up to the house or the apartment where the person is living. All that adds time, and that blows out the sort of calculations for approximate delivery. The solution to that, I'm happy to say, is cargo bikes, because with cargo bikes, they're obviously minimally affected by congestion, the maneuverability of cargo bikes, and especially when there's sort of cycling specific infrastructure in place, cargo bikes can obviously go through, weave their way through the congestion that's there for cars. The second point is that when cargo bikes arrive at their destination, they can park right at the front. of the delivery address. They don't have to go around the block. Their cargo bikes are small enough to be parked on the side of the on the sidewalk, and the rider can get off, deliver the package, and off he goes with the next delivery. So so I think the potential, that's the sort of real situation with cargo bikes and the real advantages of cargo bikes and the unique selling points of cargo bikes, and in, you know, with a lot of the issues that we're seeing that are up on the screen now, the problems that cities are currently being faced with when it comes to urban logistics or just urban mobility in general. You know, I think we're well aware of air pollution and the impact that it has on premature deaths per year. 400,000 premature deaths per year is you know, just unacceptable. The cost of congestion to society. Jocasta mentioned it as well, where she lives, but the figure here given here is that it costs societies in Europe 270 billion euros a year. And then compounding all of this, we see e-commerce going from strength to strength. Obviously, COVID lockdowns had an impact on this, but the e-commerce, the total worth of the e-commerce sector grew to 757 billion euros last year. So, you know, this is going, e-commerce is growing year on year. And in my next slide, you can see that the vehicle that's predominantly being used for this, for urban logistics, is vans. And last year, the total number of vans registered in the EU was 1.4 million vans, 96% of which were diesel van registrations, with only 4% being alternatively powered vans. So yeah, we're looking at sort of 1.26 million diesel powered vehicles going onto our roads, being in our cities, and those vehicles have a lifespan of 11 to 13 years these days. So yeah, it's a problem. I mean, if we're trying to decarbonize our transport sector and reach EU goals of 90% of emissions reductions by 2050, you know, these are some long-term impacts that need to be taken into account. Here, I just wanted to say again, you know, these are some headlines from a number of publications, international publications, talking about the accessibility, the applicability of cargo bikes for different types of use cases. But, you know, it covers a broad range for, you know, deliveries for small and medium sized businesses, to, you know, the major players in the logistics industry, as well as you know, greengrocer chains or electrical goods chains. You know, all of these companies are now sort of starting to turn to cargo bikes, seeing their potential, and the fact that they can, you know, provide deliveries to their customers, keep their customers happy using these bikes, and yeah, they are ultimately deliver faster and cleaner than vans, and are often favored by couriers than vans as well. In my next slide, yeah, I'd just like to sort of say again, reiterate, you know, why are cargo bikes a solution? You know, they decongest cities by transferring to cargo bikes, last mile logistics to cargo bikes. We can remove a number of trips, unnecessary car and vehicle van trips from cities, and make cities easier to sort of to navigate. And obviously the supporting or the next sort of follow-on opportunity that comes from that is that street space can then be reclaimed, and better cycling infrastructure can be put in place. Small parking spaces can be converted to, or on-street parking spaces can be converted to dining areas for restaurants and cafes, like we saw during in many cities during COVID. And streets can be converted into pedestrian zones, vehicles can be limited to going into certain areas at certain times, but all that space can then be reclaimed by citizens and used by citizens for things other than for driving, and you know, children can play and just sort of opens up the city and makes things much more communal. Cargo bikes also, when used in last mile logistics, are the most energy efficient and you know, emit the least CO2 of any vehicle. Yeah, research has shown that a cargo bike, one cargo bike trip uses 6% of the electricity that it requires for an electric vehicle doing the exact same trip. Because of looking at life cycle analysis, a cargo bike can cover 160,000 kilometers, more than 160,000 kilometers before an electric vehicle has even left the factory, and still be on par with it in terms of CO2 emissions. So there's obviously huge potential there for cargo bikes to decarbonize our cities and reach EU goals to decarbonize the transport sector. Obviously, if improved cycle infrastructure is put in, urban cycle logistics and last mile delivery by cargo bike can be that much more efficient, that much faster, that much more predictable, and that much more punctual. So that's obviously a huge advantage for the sector, but it also supports active travel more broadly. And again, looking more broadly at EU goals to decarbonize transport, getting more people cycling, getting more people walking, using public transport, but putting in the infrastructure to make people feel safe when they're cycling to and from work, or being able to pick up their children from school. You know, that infrastructure needs to be put in place. So it's complementary activities here, putting in place improved infrastructure for cycle logistics and cargo bikes will also have a positive impact on getting people more active. Obviously, cargo bikes make little to no noise. So, you know, we know that there's a lot of negative impacts that come from vehicles circulating in cities, and the noise impacts that has on citizens, sleep disturbance to sleep patterns, and subsequent health problems that arise from that can be traced back to noise and vehicle noise. So that's something that cargo bikes could also combat. And then on top of all this, I mean, the nail in the coffin, so to speak, is really that the average speed of most vehicles in inner city environments is around 15 kilometers per hour, and that's been proven in numerous studies. And for cargo bikes, a number of studies have been carried out where speeds are above 15 kilometers per hour. Generally, it's around 16, 17 kilometers per hour. So from a cycle logistics perspective, it means that goods can, again, get to where they need to go faster, more efficiently, emitting less CO2, and achieving, you know, broader goals, European goals. This slide here, I really just wanted to sort of emphasize, you know, what's the solution? It's not to go out and purchase an electric van, but what needs to be done by the cycling industry, and this is what we're working on as Cycling Industries Europe, is the automotive sector has been extremely efficient and good at getting putting together packages for commercial purposes. You walk into a major automobile dealer, and an hour later you can walk out with a vehicle, with a van like this, configured to what you need it for, whether it's deliveries, whether it's your job as a tradesperson. All that is sort of taken into account when you walk in the door and you speak to the salesperson, and everything's already thought of. And that's the same ecosystem that needs to be developed within the cycling industry, and specifically within cycle logistics. A lot more can be done around configuring cargo bikes so that they're useful for specific types of psychologistics jobs, as well as providing financing, leasing programs. This is all sort of it is happening, but it's you know, the automotive industry has been very strong at this, and this is something that, you know, we're learning from, and we feel like there's a lot of potential here once those systems are in place and that ecosystem is in place. There is the case for cargo bikes becomes that much more compelling. And in my next slide, I wanted to just speak about where this has been put into practice. So the City Changer Cargo Bike project is a project that CIE has been working on along with 20 other partners and 15 cities. And it's a project that's been funded by Horizon 2020. And the objective of the project has been to improve the quality of city life by exploring the potential of cargo bikes as a sustainable means of transport for private and commercial logistics purposes. So the things I'm talking about today have already been put into place, and we already have a lot of feedback and experience in what works and what doesn't. What has happened in this project is cities have been working, as it says, with private individuals to help them purchase or give them a taste for cargo bikes with try before you buy schemes, things like that. But on the commercial side of things, cities have been working, the cities within the project have been working closely with small and medium-sized businesses within their city to provide them with cargo bikes, either through grants or through systems to help them purchase cargo bikes, support subsidies. And I mean, the demand from companies has been really strong, and cities have been, you know, haven't you know, unfortunately been able to sort of keep up with demand in some cases. And you know, cities have also turned over parts of their infrastructure to allow for micro hubs or micro consolidation centers, and you know, improve cycling infrastructure, close streets, put in place policies that favor cycle logistics and last mile logistics by cargo bike. So yeah, there's been a lot of positive and a lot of success from that project, and I think that success comes through, as Paula mentioned before, in the EU Urban Mobility Framework, which was released in December last year. And as you can see up on the slide just here, this is a direct quote from this policy. But yeah, it's one of the first times that the Commission has spoken about cargo bikes specifically, and you know, speaking about it in such strong terms as it's something that needs to be accelerated for you know, using new distribution models and dynamic routing and better multimodal connected use of urban rail and inland waterways, all of which can help develop the deployment of cargo bikes and sustainable logistics solutions. And so, you know, I think the projects that have been carried out within the City Changer Cargo Bike project, carried out within Horizon 2020, has contributed to that understanding from the Commission that they're now sort of putting forward in official policy. And it's also something that's been put forward in the 10T regulations as well, about improving within urban environments and improving the access for cargo bikes in urban environments there too. So again, it's yeah, one of the successes of the project that's come through in EU policy that we're also very happy to see. And yeah, that was my sort of brief presentation about cargo bikes and the impact that they can have as zero emissions cycle logistics vehicles in cities. And yeah, glad I hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, Sam. Thanks. Only when I started working with Sam on such an interesting topic of cargo bikes, I found out, for example, that one small Eastern European city and its globally known carrier service started replacing its vans with cargo bikes with a great success, and some of the statistics. So what I wanted to just say is that this is happening, and there are more and more positive examples in Europe and globally. And we are supporting these initiatives. Thank you also, Sam, for providing this fit now from Paula towards cycling industries. Sustainable urban logistics plans are also one of the tools that Paula mentioned that can reflect on these initiatives and how cities can plan for that. But thank you, Sam, and over to Tina. and Tina will tell us what City of Tampere is doing, specifically about data supporting SAMP objectives. Tina, over to you.
Thank you. Hello to everybody. My name is Tiina Leinonen and I work for the City of Tampere, and I shortly will tell you something about Tampere and then how the data supports our SAMP objectives. So in this first slide, Tampere is a city in Finland. You can see it in the small map, and Tampere is third largest city in Finland and largest inland center in Nordic countries. And we are growing fast. Maybe if you see the numbers, you see them there. But I can say that we have at the moment about 250,000 inhabitants, and it's growing all the time. And there is estimate that it will grow more than 10% in coming years. And we have done lots of data work. You maybe have heard about the Smart Tampere. It have been a program during past years, and we are continuing the work. And as Vlad almost mentioned, that we also have the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, which was finished last year, and it was just rewarded as best SAMP in the Europe a few weeks ago. So we are very proud of it, and it's the strategic plan that we need to accomplish these goals. So in this next slide, you see these two. You see the difficulty for the need for the change, because it's the sustainable modes of transport in this green and blue sector here. It's not only the share is growing, but also this ball, which means the all the trips made in Tampere area, it's growing too. So we really have the need different kind of tools to tackle change the situation, and we of course are using kind of a strong tools. For example, we want to build an efficient and sustainable transport system. We have, for example, last year we also have a new tram which started operating last year, and it's getting wider all the time. But the big issue is also, you can see it in the steps in the next slide, is that how we can affect the mobility need and choice for transport mode, because we don't, every time we cannot do this, build something new to support people. We also have to think about these first steps here, which are the rethinking that how could the mobility need and choice of mobility, how it can be influenced, and also the optimization, that how could these current opportunities to be used more efficiently. And now I'm going to tell you two examples that and the message is that we think that the data is here to support us, especially in these two steps. And I will give you two examples that what we have already done, and then in the maybe a question to all of us that how could we do more. But the first example is here. We have done this kind of mobility CO2 calculator, which is part of our city application, Tampere.Finland application, and it currently doesn't requires any signing, which makes it more easier with the GDPR requirements. And but the basic idea is that you download it to your phone, this city application, and then you start to use this mobility calculator, and you give it follows you by your location and gives you the information that how much you are traveling and by which mode, and it gives you the personalized information that how much CO2 emissions you personally give, and also gives you, for example, what is the most used mode of transport and things like that. And I think that this makes people personally think, you can rethink that, is this something that supports my, is this how I want to live, how I want to move, and makes you rethink your own movements. But also this calculator collects the data all together, and it creates this kind of map. Here is the map of Tampere, and it's divided into sectors, and it's too small to see, but there is the information that, for example, in this area here, the walking, about 10% of the trips made in this area, they are walking. So we can get this kind of information for the traffic planning to be to help traffic planners to find maybe some, get more information, kind of complementing the traditional ways of traffic information. And so we hope that we can find maybe some new things by this kind of information. So this is something that is new way of collecting data by people. And other thing is this IoT platform, which we have created or developed during a couple of last years. And it's the basic idea is that city lighting itself, it creates a network that spreads all over the city, and it's the sensor network that can collect different kind of data. And then it's a sensor network, and then we have the platform that collects the data, and it can collect data from these IoT sensors, but it also collects different kind of data from different sources. And I think that the important thing is that it's even though it's the city IoT platform, it can be also utilized by partners, and it utilizes also open data, and there are basic rules that how anyone can be part of this can utilize this platform. So I think that is something that we are very proud of, and we are looking forward that we have now the platform, and now we start to utilize it. And one example how to utilize it is this traffic monitoring test or pilot that we have. It's the traffic cameras. They take the video that they take is analyzed by pattern recognition tools, and we get new kind of information about, for example, one crossing that what kind of vehicles there are, also not only the cars but also the light traffic and walk and people walking and things like that, and also all kind of information. And then we can get this data, and for example, this could be used in kind of solving the problem that when there is a lot of traffic in some place, that this gives you very precise information about that, and that can be maybe in the future shared with the citizens so that they can make their self decisions, decide that when it's the good time to go to work or go home. So see, this is something that this data can support. And I think that one thing is also that we are planning to utilize the existing traffic cameras, which makes it more easy to do it in more widely. And these were the solutions, but I think that we don't have any we still have a lot of questions, and I there's a picture from our SAM plan that we are also planning to have this kind of city hubs, and how we can support them with the data. And I put there in the title that easy data, that I think that data is not so easy, because I think there is a lot of information, for example, in this kind of hub that we need to support people to use it easily. So that's kind of a kind of a question that how to collect and share and connect and utilize the data so that people see it easily, and it supports their usage for this kind of hub. And I think that is the same reflects, for example, for the goods and other services, that it's not only the people that need the data, but we need data from everything that happens here. There is a small list. We have done one project thinking about that, what kind of data would be needed in this kind of hubs. And this is done what this person here who waits for bus or tram or planning to go somewhere, that what kind of data she or he would need. So this is just a quick thought of by one side, and it listed still so long. So I think that's the problem that we have to solve together, that how could we make this all data available, and how we can find solutions that would be easy to use and easy to cities and easy to people to use. So thank you. And you can here in the last slide, you can also find the link for our SAM plan if you are interested. It's also in English. You can find it in English in our web pages.
Thank you very much, Tina. I have to say we are very, very honored in Ertico partnership. We have 3 cities, 3 T's, and these are the places I'm visiting in order of Toulouse, Trikala, and definitely Tampere. Hello, Lisa. Welcome back. Let's have a short Q&A with all of our participants now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vlad. I think the first question that I would like to highlight here is a question back to Google, Jacasta. Sustainability has been mentioned a couple of times in this webinar, and the question here is, how far is Google in front of other hyperscalers in terms of sustainability?
So I think Google, our key commitment is sustainability. It's what our customers expect of us, and it's what we expect of ourselves. So we set ourselves some really challenging commitments. Today we run the greenest cloud. We are carbon neutral. We have been since 2007. In 2020, we eliminated all of our legacy carbon emissions since our founding in 1998. And we've set ourselves the ambitious goal to be carbon-free 24/7 by 2030. You're going to see a number of sustainability announcements from Google and messages from Google in the next couple of weeks leading up to Earth Day tomorrow. So, we believe we are way ahead of our competition in terms of our sustainability objectives and commitments.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jacasta. Vlad, over to you.
Thank you. I have a question for cycling industries and Sam. Sam, you talk a lot about the advantages of cargo bikes in city logistics, in urban logistics. So what are the limitations, what we need to be aware of, and how we can prepare our cities to accommodate better cargo bikes?
Thanks, Vlad. Yeah, well, look, I think there's one important crucial piece even that needs to be sort of taken into account when looking at cycle logistics, and that's the use of micro hubs and micro consolidation centers. Having small depots in inner city environments, in urban environments where cycle couriers or cycle companies can pick up deliveries and make these short trips to the location where they need to be delivered is fundamental to the sort of model of cycle logistics. So that's something that it is being developed by cities. There's increasing space, retail space, obviously because e-commerce is changing sort of market dynamics around retail. More and more retail spaces are open, so those spaces are often quite good. Car parks, there's a whole broad range of types of areas where micro hubs can be installed, and that has also been something that's been developed through the City Changer Cargo Bike project. And so yeah, that's one fundamental piece of the puzzle that needs to be there. Another, as I mentioned, is infrastructure, is low emission zones, is urban vehicle access regulations. All that reinforces the use case of cargo bikes and the efficiency of cargo bikes, making them get to where they need to go a lot faster, and obviously with zero emissions, truly zero emissions in that sense of the word. So yeah, there is those that I would say are the sort of limitations that need to be addressed by cities in working in tandem with cyclogistics operators, working in tandem with local cycling groups as well, who have an idea also about cycling infrastructure. So there's multiple layers there that need to be taken into account, but I think those are the key points that need to be addressed.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Indeed, that's why I mentioned sustainable urban logistics plans and things like that, because everything needs to come together, and that's why it was this important conversation between the Commission to yourself, to the city of Tampere. I have one final question. This is what Ertico does. We bring the various stakeholders together, and for the first time now we have a city of Tampere as representative of cities and city cluster and city sector of Ertico, and we have a global data and technology giant such as Google and Google Cloud. And Tampere talk about new initiatives for their data development. So maybe a question to Jocasta and to Tina, very shortly. What do you think, if you would join your forces with Google and Google with the cities, what you can achieve together? So I don't know, Tina or Jocasta to start. Jocasta has the first screen.
I won on that race to the button. I think joining forces with local authorities and city planners and everything is exactly what Google would love to do. Being able to access, well, first of all, you've got to collect the data, okay, and then once you've got that data, you need then to be able to gain the insights from it. And I think that's where the Google Transport Analytics Platform comes in, because with the petabyte scale of our analytics platform, the ease of use, the fact that it's not going to increase your carbon emissions just by using the IT itself, which is also a huge kind of factor. That ability to then be able to gain insight from that data, because there's no point just collecting data for the sake of collecting data. You've actually got to gain some value from that data. So yeah, absolutely, we would love to be working with logistics companies and cities.
Thanks, Jocasta. And Tina?
Yeah, I think I can complement that, like getting the I think that cities need to understand that how we can combine and how we can get things out of that data. Just Jocasta said that I think that one example is that when we are talking about the rush hours and how could we use the data that we have already about the traffic, and we are doing an example that the Google is saying that in the shops that what are the rush hours, that we would like to have same kind of meter that in the highways nearby, so that kind of a getting the understanding that how to utilize the data. I think that is something that we would like to have cooperation with.
It sounds like there's an opportunity there for further discussion.
We're gonna meet in Toulouse. We're gonna meet all in Toulouse and keep on this discussion.
I was just gonna say we can talk in Toulouse, but for now we've run out of time. So thank you so much to our speakers, to Vlad, to Rita in the background from my team who has organized all this. Thank you very much to our listeners as well. We have one more webinar to go, and then we'll see each other in beautiful Toulouse. Bye for now.
Bye from me.